Hello and welcome to the podcast, everyone. This is This or That, where we take two films, whatever link we can find between these films, we put them against each other and see which one did it better. Today I am Callum, first off. And then I'm joined on my left by Joolz.
Hello.
And on my right, Edmund.
Hello.
So the films we'll be talking today about are Bohemian Rhapsody and Rocketman.
Brilliant.
We are going to be making the greatest show on earth, just as these two icons have for many years. So, synopsis-wise, I mean, I'm sure everyone is very familiar with the rise and, I mean, fall, but not really fall of either of them. Just, you know, things happened. I mean, one of them died. But Bohemian Rhapsody is about the creation and rise of Queen and then the disbanding of the band, which we'll talk about in the podcast, and Freddie Mercury going off on himself and trying to make music, and them coming back together, and the revelation of his AIDS, and just a biopic of Queen, but I would say mostly Freddie Mercury. And then we have Rocketman, kind of a musical, really. It's, I believe they call it a jukebox musical when you take music that's already made or of a famous person, and it does the same biopic, kind of how he came about, how delves into his childhood at the start, and also how he met Bernie, his writing partner, and how they met and through what means, and how he got in with his music label, and how his breakthrough role at the Troubadour in Los Angeles, and just kind of charts his life and the ups and downs and the pit of despair, I guess he got to in the end, but also his recovery, which is very nice to see. So I'm just going to start, there's the synopsis, I'm just going to start by saying I had no idea how similar these two films are, but also how similar the lives these two men led. Mm-hmm. They are so similar. Yeah. In so many ways, it's crazy. Just the rise and fall of pop stars, I guess, is the easiest way to put it. But just these absolute legends of the music industry, especially with Freddie Mercury dying, he becomes, somewhat of a myth, a legend within that, because you don't see how he turned out in his later life. You don't have all this archival footage, whereas Elton John, guy loves being just out there and doing his thing. You see him all the time. He's on Graham Norton, he's out about performing for the Queen, doing that COVID I'm Till Tandon recital that he did. So I think the best place to start is the film I watched first. Whilst watching these two films in one day, I watched Bohemian Rhapsody first. Mm-hmm. So I think we'll start there, and I'll just start with my first note, which says cringe 20th Century Fox opening, because they do the 20th century score music but with an electric guitar.
Yeah, like the iconic Brian May tone.
Yeah. And I was just like, right, is this the tone of the film? Is it? It's not going to be this dark kind of getting in the sights in the head of Freddie Mercury and his depression and his dealing with the AIDS and the HIV. We're just going fun and light.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Mustache becomes very prominent instantly. That's the first thing I saw.
What, of
His mustache,
the entire film?
Yeah,
oh yeah, fair enough, because it does start with it starts with him getting ready to do the Live Aid performance.
The iconic outfit.
So iconic, the iconic outfit, the iconic performance. It is kind of the height of Queen, I would say personally, and it seems to be documented as the height of them as a band.
Yeah,
like it's hailed as the greatest rock performance in
Live Aid
history.
is also
absolutely
huge,
Live Aid was huge, regardless, and everyone was there, and Elton was there as well, and
Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
How many beers does he have on that piano as well? I mean,
well, you have bands coming and going, so they're leaving stuff. It's not set up for just Freddie Mercury.
Well, they only were playing 20-minute sets,
so
the turnover time for bands or the changeover was very quick. Yeah.
Get off, get the next people on. But I think it's a good way to open the film, personally.
Yeah, me too.
You start there kind of, and that's the end point, and then you go back to wherever you're going to start. Freddie Mercury is a Freddie Mercury story, realistically. You know, you start where does Freddie Mercury begin? Where does that person come from?
Would be that's their kind of where they would have. I mean, obviously they're a big band beforehand.
And the same with any people of this kind of this level. The why you want to make these films and why I want to watch these films is to see where they came from before they are Freddie Mercury or before they are Elton John, both stage names, both of them recreating themselves for their performances and for their music.
Yeah, I mean, the opening of Bohemian Rhapsody is fantastic, and then it goes to him working at Heathrow Airport.
Yeah.
Doing luggage, doing a pretty normal, 9 to 5 job.
Yeah.
And, the guys there are racist to him and, call him names and stuff. And he has to say, I'm not from the place that you're referring to, sort of thing. It just highlights the ignorance of that time as well. Of, everyone who wasn't English and white was, an outsider in their eyes. It would have been, 60s, mid to late 60s. I am a big Queen fan, and I've liked Queen from when I was a kid. My grandparents had videos at their house of all the Queen music videos and the live sets and stuff like that.
Yeah, I didn't know.
It influenced my music choices from an early age, listening to Queen and stuff like that. So at school we had to do a project. When I was at primary school we had to do a project, like research a famous person, and I chose Freddie Mercury to do research in. I mean, I was like 9, so it wasn't very in depth, but found out some interesting facts. He was born in Zanzibar, which is sort of North Africa, I think, isn't it? Near Tanzania.
Yeah.
His family
they fled
this country because they were being persecuted.
They were Parsi, Zoroastrianism.
So they had to flee the country with. They couldn't take anything. They just had to get out of there, sort of thing, and then came to, I guess, near London. He's working at Heathrow,
which is that story is it feels like a big part of the film, but also
should be,
but also not a very big part. It's mentioned a lot, but just very, kind of. It seems to have a big impact, but kind of I don't know. It feels like a surface level mention.
Him in the film kind of never talks about it.
Yeah,
and maybe and obviously he changes his name from his cultural, his family's names. Yeah. So he was kind of separating himself from it. And I guess until, the time he died, that was his past life and whatever. But I do think it would be interesting if he had not died, whether he would have reconnected with that part of him. And maybe he would have gone to Zanzibar, and maybe he would have learn about cultural music of Zanzibar. Maybe he would have that would have influenced his later career, because I think that's a very common thing with a lot of artists. They'll go out, do their own thing, make their own path, and then kind of later in life, once that kind of era has passed, both of them for them as an artist, but also just kind of the zeitgeist of music has passed, rock's gone, or hip hop's came in, whatever, so it's a new thing in the zeitgeist. Maybe you will go back and find some connection there and then make some music.
I think one of the biggest parts of this film is the fact that Freddie Mercury is dead.
Yeah.
That does seem to be quite a big influence on the film. Of the film itself, but also how I think it's been done.
The narrative of the story is, yes, the end is very much his death.
Yeah.
Not the most historically accurate film from what I've read up on, including his. I don't think they don't really show his death. They just say in the credits, right, that he died and stuff at this time, and he had his new partner and stuff like that. But yeah, one of the big misconceptions this film puts out there, which I'm just going to dive straight into, is that he had AIDS before Live Aid. Apparently that's not true. He got it years later, or the diagnosis years later.
He got it. Yeah.
So within this narrative, they're kind of pushing that this Live Aid, he knows it's his last thing. That's kind of the narrative they're putting forward, that in Freddie Mercury's psyche, the reason he wants to do Live Aid so badly is because he is thinking of it as his last performance.
He says that kind of let's do this performance as like
Yes,
one big show.
because he tells the band beforehand, and the band hadn't performed together in 4 years, so it's like this big moment in the film. And I understand it from a narrative point of view, but I think if you're going to do a biopic about this band's life, that's such a big change from reality. I don't think it's right.
Yeah, especially if you're going to do it more as a biopic, which it does, because it's mainly about Freddie Mercury and his life.
Yes.
It's not about Queen per se. To put that in wrongly doesn't quite.
When he's the main
sense.
character, yeah.
Especially as he's not signed off on it, because obviously he's dead. Obviously his bandmates have, but yeah, it feels a bit unnecessary.
Yeah.
Or does it feel quite?
Yeah, and I think, you know, the main complaint of this film, just on the internet and in general, is that it is washed away of any kind of
reality.
Well, just like the bad side of life, like it's very much an easy watching film. I believe the studios wanted it to be a 12 rated film, because then obviously,
which I think it is,
which it is, and you can sell it more and more people can go see it, and blah blah blah, and loads of people want to see it. One of the biggest films of the year, 2018.
Yep.
So like, did they make the right? For me, they didn't make the right decisions. You know, I want to see the reality of his life, and I just feel like it wasn't the reality. But then, if I can like compare it to Rocketman is very surreal, so you can play with reality as long as you get like the point across. I think because it's so real and so abstract and so much of its story, even though it's actually truer to his life, as far as I can tell anyway, and read up on it, you like forgive it. Whereas this, like you're saying, it's going for that more biopic, down to earth reality feeling. Like the story is very linear after the one time jump.
Yeah.
It is just a series. It is just the series of events of what his life
were. It's not.
Rocketman plays with it a bit more.
I mean, we're putting cards on the table. I don't like Queen. I think they're a little bit shit. I get that I get that they're very good, and like that comes across in the music making scenes. You know, they're kind of, you can see they're clever and it's cool.
The technicality of it, yeah.
I can see
re-recording over and over on one piece of tape and getting it.
But
you know,
it's not. Maybe it's just not for me.
I would say it's probably not for you.
Yeah. Agreed.
I mean, I like Queen enough. I kind of put them in the same boat as the Beatles, where I think they're too famous for their own good. It just means I don't get to appreciate them kind of on my own, without kind of the pressure of the world to like them. Like if you talk to anyone who likes the Beatles and you say, I can take or leave them, they think you're insane. and I'm like, leave me alone.
Queen do have fans like that. I'm not that kind of fan.
No.
Like, I understand why people don't like them, because they've either never really listened to them, or they have listened to them and it's just not their bag. And that's the whole point of music. Like, if you don't like it, there's other stuff out there that's for you, and this isn't for you. So, and I
like
plenty of the Queen songs.
I've got some bangers.
I don't think I really listened to Queen properly until I was like 13, maybe. I remember doing "We Are the Champions" in primary school as a song.
Yeah.
Which kind of just goes to my point of like, especially in Britain. Who knows if we have listeners that are not in England, Britain. It's just everywhere. It is everywhere. It's on every advert. It's in films. It's so iconic to the time period of late 60s, 70s Britain that it's just everywhere, and just always. There's never been a point in my life where I didn't know what Queen was.
I'm not the same.
No,
my parents didn't really listen to music. I don't really think.
Well, that's interesting.
Not this.
That's
sort of
not
music.
the topic for this conversation.
That
but
also
that's
explains
also interesting.
a hell of a lot.
I mean, I do
damn.
remember when I first met Joolz, and his iPod just had classical music or the Cypress Hill album,
did.
and that was the only things on his iPod.
To say it was eclectic would be, an understatement.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's not that eclectic.
But yeah, like I think the main reason though is when you're talking about how the way that they recorded, when they were signed to EMI, the person who signed them, the head of the record label, wanted them to conform to a certain formula of writing songs, and they were one of the first bands to sort of say, well, no, we're going to do what we want to do, which is sort of, you can take it two ways. You can either say that's a really good artistic way to go down, or it's quite self-indulgent and quite arrogant.
I have arrogant arseholes written in my notes because the film portrays them as arrogant arseholes, especially in that meeting.
Yeah.
Because I don't think they're wrong. I think artists should do whatever they like. To a certain degree, I do think having someone to bounce it off and like rein you in, which is proven within this film. And Freddie Mercury, when he went off to do his own
solo stuff,
he didn't have anyone to rein him in, so he made bad music.
It is bad.
I think that's important, but you do have to trust people sometimes, and Bohemian Rhapsody is a fantastic song,
but it got absolutely slated when it was released.
They
liked
showed that.
it.
Yeah, they
it was
showed
a
that
slow burner.
Yeah.
Like it happens like that a lot when songs are released.
Yeah,
Ahead of their time.
Yeah,
ahead of their time, exactly.
and
Because
then-
the older generation that don't get it. Like that's,
Yeah,
and
people
they're
are in
like,
charge of it.
"What is this 7-minute long song? I don't have enough time in my life."
to listen to this. Yeah. I mean, that's still the general consensus now for releasing music. Like 3 minutes
Well,
is,
now
is the
it's-
cutoff.
now it's,
3.5 at a push.
Within your first 30 seconds, you need your hook for TikTok.
So it's like, so you don't get, like Dark Side of the Moon-esque things anymore, or Bohemian Rhapsodies, or, like Jeff Buckley style songs that go on for like 8 minutes. Like there's a saying, don't bore us, get to the chorus. Like that's the whole, the whole thing.
And I think Elton John did it the other way. He got in sweet with his early stuff. That's catchy. That's good. By the way, I'm just going to say now I like Elton's music better. For me, he's just so good and so sing-songy, which is what I like. I like to sing along. I'm not saying that you can't sing along to Queen song. You can too, and I like him a lot as well. But I think he played the game right without even realizing he was playing the game. It just worked for that time period, and then he gets to go off and once he's a multi-millionaire, he gets off, is able to do whatever he wants and explore different stuff and do because it's not just Lion King. Didn't he make like an African album?
He
That's
did.
Elton John, isn't it?
He did some other stuff.
He gets to then go off and explore, and it isn't. It must be so frustrating if you're a musician and you're being told to conform, and I get it. And I certainly don't play the game with life as well. I hate it too. But if you can do it, do it. Get in, get your money, get your stature, and then go off and do whatever you want.
Yeah, I mean, there's two sides to the argument, though, isn't there? Because it's like, you don't want artists don't want to be penned in, if you like.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, and I'm not saying I agree with either, I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
No.
I'm just saying that, but then on the other side, they're giving you an advance on money. It's their money at risk. It's not your money. So, sometimes you do have to, play the game with them. But yeah, I think I was looking at, I mean, just for the record too, I'm also an Elton John fan. I like both people, artists and band. I like both of them.
Can you guess who Joolz prefers?
But I was looking, because Elton John and Bernie, I can't remember his second name now.
No, I can't remember.
But Bernie, they were writing duo for ages, for years and years and years, and I had a look on their discography as to like how many songs, and they are credited on over 2,500 songs.
Jeez.
Insane.
Mental.
Well, he says before he's even got the deal solidified, he's still like a background singer and player, I believe, that they have hundreds of songs ready to go. When he's performing it to Stephen Graham, great addition, love Stephen Graham in everything. he's like, oh, I've got hundreds of songs ready to go, and he's just banging out loads of famous songs which they're not using in Rocketman. They're just like the blues song.
Yeah, and I guess that's why they call it the blues.
Yeah, and he's like, boring, depressing. And you know what? He is right.
Yeah.
He is right to an extent. And these two record guys in both films seem to be actually fairly level-headed.
Yeah,
They don't seem to be like complete arsehole money men.
They're just worried about losing lots of money.
They're just worried about losing a lot of money. And I read up the guy for Bohemian Rhapsody. He was like an old singer as well. Like he was a musical guy. So like he got it, and I think that's why he didn't push back too much. Fun fact, that's Mike Myers playing that role. And Mike Myers is credited with the resurgence, but also not just the resurgence, the insane popularity of Queen in America, because he fought tooth and nail, wouldn't say no to a producer, about including Bohemian Rhapsody in Wayne's World. So he signed on for the film without like script or anything, because he was like, yeah, great. And then it's funny because he's playing the character that's telling them to slow down.
Yeah.
Whereas in real life, he was the guy, much like Queen, saying, no, this is music. This needs to be the iconic song of Wayne's World.
Yeah,
because apparently, from what I've read, is that Queen weren't massive in America. They were obviously huge here, iconic pinnacle British music. Like they were big in America, but they were not. They were not Elton John.
They weren't global superstars in America, but they did tour. They
toured America, Japan. It says in the film.
South America. They've done Australia.
They said they had to have security guards and stuff, so they said it was pretty...
I did read a thing that... who is the guy who did Live Aid?
Bob Geldof.
Bob
Geldof, yeah.
Apparently Bob Geldof didn't like Queen because they would perform in countries like South Africa when apartheid was still real.
Well, Freddie Mercury is famously like he's like, he doesn't want to talk about politics. I think it was an interview with him, and he was like, I don't want to do the John Lennon thing.
Which I think that might have, been a reason that at the time maybe they didn't get as famous abroad. But apparently, like a lot of people were upset that Queen did that because they went into apartheid South Africa and performed, and somewhere else I can't remember the other one, but like they and that and to be fair is a hard thing. It's like you're just a musician, don't get political, blah blah blah, and people say that about everything nowadays. Don't get political, but realistically, maybe you shouldn't have performed in apartheid South Africa. I think that probably was a bad call.
It's a bad business decision for sure. Yeah, I mean it's sort of like
short term, great business decision. Yeah. Long term,
no. Yeah, I mean, it's sort of it's not the one really, is it? Back then, but yeah, they had such a massive influence in in popular culture in the UK that it's kind of hard not to I always have this irk with famous people when they get annoyed about being asked questions, and it's sort of like, you chose this life. No one forced you to become famous. Like you made a conscious decision to like become this person. Especially
these two men.
Yeah, and
they wanted to be stars.
Yeah, and but then you see them like getting antsy with reporters and stuff, and it's sort of like, man, this is part and parcel of the career that you've chosen.
Like it's different when you're in the street and you're walking down the street with your husband or whatever. Like that's different. But if you're at a press tour and you're getting annoyed that you're being asked questions, it's like, come on.
I suppose the difference between it depends on some reporters they probably just don't like.
Yeah, for sure, but you have control. They do have control of those. Like reporters can get banned from going to specific people's press tours and stuff like that.
These like people like Elton John and Freddie Mercury, they are like, the whole point is they are quite over the top. So it's unlike, it would be sort of out of personality if they're like, that's something I don't like, I'm just not going to listen to you. They are the kind of people that are going to respond and sing a song about.
I mean, there's quite a famous interview with Brian May, like I'd say recently, but it was after Freddie Mercury had died. It's when he's an older guy, Brian May. I think it must have been a few years ago, and he got fucking annoyed at a reporter and just stormed out there because they were asking questions, and he's just said, and he just was like, had a bad day and then just stormed out, sort of thing. He was very polite when he stormed out, but he sort of like he just was like, "I'm sorry, I just like you've asked me all these questions. I don't really know what you're asking me, so I think we're just going to knock it on the head and I'm going to go." But I do get that. If you just if your time's being wasted, then I get that.
And I get that too. It's the whole thing with like the guy from Channel 4 that did the Robert Downey Jr. interview and the Quentin interview, and they both stormed off.
Christian Guru Murphy.
Because basically those interviews they're press junkets for their films, and it's kind of, you know, the guy doing the interview has a guide basically of like what they want to be asked.
He wasn't doing what they wanted to do.
And he wouldn't do it. And you could argue, yes, journalism, blah, blah, blah. But if Robert Downey Jr. is expecting to talk about his new film, and then you ask him about his pill addiction from nearly 30 years ago at that point,
and asked him about his dad and his relationships with his dad,
and his
dad
it was like just died, I think, at that time. And he was making a film about his his dad. Yeah, he was making a film about his dad.
Yeah, and like
stuff, and
that.
It's just like,
but then again, it's
you're not in the mind space to answer those questions,
and
that's not the format.
Very disrespectful to ask them sort of questions, especially if you're trying to get to, you know. It's fair enough, like, if they're doing, you know, some sort of interview about their life, those questions will come up. Exactly. But when it's something specific to their work, and then you start bringing personal matters into it.
The best thing about being famous is those interviews are famous interviews. So depending on what you want, it's like, do you want the interview to come out with interesting things, or do you want them to go
viral?
Yeah, exactly.
And they have. Both of those are super viral.
What did you think of Rami Malek as Freddie Mercury?
I thought he was fantastic. I thought he was really good. I thought like he like, as an actor, he's not him. I'm not an actor. Like, I thought he played his part very well, and I think he looked the part. But you can only do what's been given to you. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can't.
I think that's the issue.
You can't do any more.
I really do not track, because I was like, God, when I was watching, I was like, Freddie Mercury just comes across as a bit of a dick, and he just seems a bit kind of in his own world. I thought those teeth must be over the top, and I just don't think he comes across a bit in his own world.
They're over the top in Rami's face because he's so thin.
Yeah.
Whereas from what I can see, not call him fat or overweight or whatever, like Freddie Mercury seems to be like quite healthy. Yeah, big, strapping lad.
Strapping young man.
Like, his face is full.
Yeah.
I would argue. Whereas Rami Malek has the two bits of his jaw that kind of stick out.
Yeah.
And so then if you have very accentuated facial features, which Rami Malek does, like his eyes are very prolific and his eye sockets are like quite sunken, to then give him the fake teeth on top, it just, I think it's a bit much. Throughout the film, those teeth made his mustache face the sky. Whereas like, that's not really how a lip works. No. So like, you could just tell they're fake teeth the entire time.
But when I watched interviews of Freddie Mercury, he comes across as very relaxed, quite jovial, doesn't seem to take himself too seriously. He sort of said he used to, but I think in the film he comes across as like quite, like, he sort of tries to be a bit playful, but I think he just comes across as a bit kind
insecure.
of
insecure. But I don't think
surface level.
I don't think Rami Malek is the one to hold, responsible.
No, necessarily. I'll hold accountable the director that was fired from this film.
Yeah, and also like Roger Taylor and Brian May, who were producers
sanitized
on
it.
They seemed to, they said they didn't want to tarnish his legacy, from what I could tell, Freddie
would have loved it.
I sort of
like Elton John did.
I sort of get it again. Like, again, I'm gonna play devil's advocate. I get both sides of the argument, and I'm not saying I agree with either, but it's really hard for someone to defend themselves when they're not alive, or to like have they can't. Freddie Mercury wouldn't have had any say, so maybe they're like trying to, they don't want to go too far because it's not their place to say, like, and they can't ask for permission. Do you know what I mean?
I think they should just make it more about Queen then.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say. But then on the other side, it's like maybe they focused it in the wrong.
I bet the other members. I mean,
Well,
they're
come
famously
across as very
boring,
bland
right?
and boring, but apparently one of them's like a crazy party animal that is never
The drummer.
mentioned. Yeah, never mentioned.
Roger Taylor, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is shown in the film. He's constantly drinking, constantly sleeping with tons of women. He's cheating on his wife, I'm pretty sure, at one part. It's just not explicit.
I did not pick up that.
Yeah, exactly. It's just kind of in the background.
Yeah.
And there was a point in this film where, I just kind of focused on the background because I was, to be honest, I was a bit bored.
Yeah. And then John Deacon, who's the bassist,
He's a recluse.
he is now a recluse, and he has finessed this whole situation
Brilliantly.
Yeah. Like, he is chilling somewhere in the UK
With his wife of like 44 years.
yeah, with his wife, never cheated on her, never like he wasn't the party animal, he was just like literally
The funny faces.
the epitome of a bass player, just like cool, calm and collected, do you know what I mean? And then
Can we just do the song?
Yeah,
Can you
yeah.
all stop arguing?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Literally is that scene.
and then they're like, that's a cool riff, and he's just like sort of
and he's just
nods his head at her, he's
like,
yeah, I know.
I'm really good at this.
I know. I'm great at the bass.
and it was a good song.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
he's-
no, I did think that was funny.
He's like, people pap him every now and again, and he just looks like a normal
Just
bloke.
walking from the shops. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
he's just got like a waterproof jacket on and some
Yeah,
jeans,
yeah,
smoking a fag on the way from
Yeah,
the back
yeah.
from the shops, and like he's chilling on his royalties.
Because as far as he's concerned,
got nothing to worry about.
Like what he presumably said at the time, as far as he's concerned, Queen died when Freddie died, which I think is probably fair enough, because Freddie, as we're seeing when they create Bohemian Rhapsody, like he may have not been like the initial starting point of that song, although they all kind of like took turns and blah blah blah, but he definitely was the developer of what that song became.
Yeah,
he
the
was
conductor.
like, let's keep going, let's push it this way, let's push it that way, and then the rest of the team can be like, that's too much, let's pull it back here. He is the one pushing the envelope.
He comes across
Queen,
as the visionary of the...
which is what you need, and it is kind of that thing of, well, if he is dead, who is then pushing Queen? Because my main argument with Queen is that they do not move with the times, and Elton John did,
Yes.
and he did it well.
Yes.
Whereas, like, Freddie Mercury wanted to move with the times because in this film he seemingly wanted to make like 80s club music, and that's where the Bowie song kind of comes from, the Under Pressure, and the other kind of like heavy bass ones. So there's kind of like he's trying to push it further, but the rest of the band, from what I can gather, are kind of stuck in their ways, and
They seem
kind
like
of
comfortable kind of
they're
people that are
becoming
in their own world.
like they're not becoming relevant anymore. These people, they're becoming the last generation, and they love rock, and that's it.
Yeah, and sometimes, if that's your way of thinking as a musician, I think that you should just bow out gracefully.
Exactly.
You've had your run, you've had your time, but like,
And
don't get
genres
pissed
move
off at everybody else about it,
But
because things change.
But
do you know
if
what
he
I mean?
didn't die,
Time goes
it's
by.
such a what if of like, what would they have made if they didn't die and they got into like the 90s and the early 2000s? Freddie Mercury would have loved, I feel like he would have loved the late 90s and the early 2000s kind of
But I don't
music,
think Queen would
and
have
he would
gone
have
with it.
gone. No, which is fine, because the only problem, as far as the film lets you know, is that he's surrounded by yes men when he makes his new album, whereas Elton John goes and finds different collaborators. He doesn't find yes men. He finds people that he wants to work with and listen to and get the best out of them and get the best out of himself. And I think that's the difference between like a truly great artist, is that you are looking to make the best thing possible, and you're able to look at yourself and go, I can't do that, but maybe this guy could, and we could work together and make something fantastic.
Yeah.
Because in Rocketman, which we'll get to properly, it's kind of made out that like they kind of break up. It's not that bad of like a falling out, but apparently they've never had
it has a long
they've
arc,
never had an
so
argument in their
it's,
50 years. Basically, it was Roger. Why do I keep saying Roger? What's
Bernie.
Bernie. Where do I get Roger from? Bernie he just wanted a break, and it was kind of just this more of a mutual decision of like, well, yeah, that's fine. I'll just go because he doesn't write lyrics, Elton, he's just like, yeah, I'll go off and do some other stuff, and I've got some other stuff in the works. Elton was just constantly working with people. Like it wasn't a big thing, which the kind of movie made it more so to be a thing. Whereas, yeah, it seems that they need each other. Whereas Bernie and Elton love each other and they love working together, and they're friends of 50 plus years, which is crazy. And he's all, they've always been supportive of each other, coming out as gay and whatever else. But they were both comfortable enough within themselves and their work.
They seem to have separate roles, like much more. So like Bernie comes across as the writer and Owen as the performer. Whereas in Queen, it's like they create songs. Like one of them maybe creates the song, but then they all come together to actually create the final thing.
So they all will make their own songs as like a starting point, as far as I can understand, and then they'll bring it to the team, and then they'll work on it together.
Yeah, because John Deacon wrote Another One Bites the Dust, and Freddie Mercury wrote Bohemian Rhapsody, and then like Brian May wrote, I think he wrote You're My Best Friend. Oh no, that was John Deacon as well. To be fair, but what we're saying is that like
they all write
songs, but like it's only at the end, towards the end, when Freddie's career's gone down the pan, and then he goes, "Oh well, he apologizes allegedly," and
not how it went in real life,
and then they say, "Oh well, we don't want it to be an argument between who gets what royalties. It should be like a 4-way split." And I was thinking, like, it should have been that.
From the
it seems right to be a 4-way split, given that like
everyone's involved.
They're all writing songs, all hits.
But that's like such a.
That's the reason why bands break up. Is because an argument over royalties.
Because one person thinks they do more than the other, or whatever, and
it's because I get the impression that they're all like middle class as well.
Yes, very much so.
They're all going to this very nice school, and they're all doing very smart subjects.
Well,
he's an astrophysicist.
Roger Taylor was training to be a dentist, and John Deacon did some sort of engineering,
electrical engineering. Which they say they make the joke out of that Freddie doesn't even know what he studied. Which, as far as I can tell, it doesn't seem like he was a twat to any of them at any point.
No.
But that's enough about the men, the legends, and all of that. Let's talk about the film specifically. And I'm just gonna say, I'm gonna start with Dexter Fletcher, who is the director of Rocketman, credited as being the director, start to finish, and Rocketman came out in 2019, I believe, and Bohemian 2018. Bohemian, original director is Bryan Singer, who apparently the making of Bohemian Rhapsody was a nightmare. Not even like pre-production. Production was a nightmare, and Rami Malek and Bryan Singer would often like essentially have fist fights. And before Christmas, I think, because it's American, they say like around Thanksgiving, because they'll have a break at Thanksgiving. They have the Thanksgiving break, and then Bryan Singer doesn't come back, and he's like being pushed off by Fox, and then he's being pushed, and then his film that he was going to do afterwards, like his own film, like written or whatever, was then also cancelled. And it turns out, lots of bad stuff about him, and he's been cancelled and all that. And so Dexter Fletcher from Rocketman
takes over the last hour. You can't. There's no way.
Third. I think which is the best bit of the film, but he doesn't take over until after Christmas, is from what I read. So there's like 2 months of production just kind of nothing happening, which is so massive.
And that's after all the Sacha Baron Cohen stuff, where they fell out because he wants to do a more realistic take on it, and then they were like, no, and he was like, I'm not going to do it.
And that was
Sacha Baron Cohen looks like Freddie Mercury.
He does, yeah.
I think he would have done really.
And actually,
good
the way he
darker.
talks and the way he like moves and like speaks, it just
because he's British as well, so he's got like because he's in like Les Mis and like
hair,
more theatrical stuff, and he's done musical and theatre stuff. Like I think he's just got that flamboyancy. He can do that flamboyant side that Freddie really is. Whereas I don't. Unless it's like very explicit, like the darling and the whatever else, I just don't get a sense of
he's trying.
Freddie, he's like really acting it rather than then he is Freddie Mercury. Whereas Taron Egerton, yeah, it's just Elton John, I think, like pretty much. But more points about this film. So that out of the way, I think Dexter Fletcher took everything bad about Bohemian Rhapsody, going into Rocketman and going, we're going to actually make a good film, and it's going to be cohesive, and the music's actually going to be a part of the film. In Bohemian Rhapsody, it's more of kind of like this needle drop situation where it's just played on top of the movie, whereas in Rocketman, it's part of the score. Like, they reworked the entire catalogue that they chose to work with into the score, into making motifs, into making here's a little snippet of Rocketman, here's another little snippet, and we're building to this crescendo later on in the film. And whereas Bohemian Rhapsody is just like, well, then they made this song and here's the song, and oh, they've made this song and here's the song, and oh, they made this music video for this song, here's the song. And like some part you don't even get to like listen to the entire song. It was super annoying. I was just like, I don't think, because then the other thing is like, they don't make a song until 40 minutes into the film. So you haven't even heard of Queen's song until like 40 minutes.
I think in a way, I kind of think that makes sense almost for the way that Queen and Elton John's music works. Like, the Queen's music feels like they're very much like producing art music, and they're all like playing funky instruments and like trying to create something in a kind of almost like engineer approach.
I would argue,
whereas Elton John's like emotional kind of life story.
I would argue the complete opposite.
Oh, really?
Queen's music, as is said in the film, is like derived of operatic music. It's derived of like musicals, because he was a fan of musicals as well. Like, it's derived from being this like stage presence. Whereas I would argue Elton John's music, as we kind of talked about, is very commercial. It is very much meant to be one a piece, kind of listen to them out of any kind of order. Because I haven't listened to Queen.
They're all singles.
Yeah,
Everything he writes, they're all singles
combined into an album. Whereas,
and if you have an album of bangers, it's going to do nothing but well.
Yeah. Whereas Queen, as far as I can tell, would actually lend itself to being a musical more, because 7 minutes of a song, you could split it into a score, and it's very scory music anyway, with the highs and the lows and the drama and the, and the all types of different musicals and the choirs. Like, it lends itself to being a musical much more, I would say.
Absolutely.
Maybe to be a musical, but as in terms of storytelling, I think Elton John's songs are better. You could Elton John stories with him.
Well, his words make sense.
Yeah, exactly.
The words make sense.
You can't do much with Scaramouche in a.
No.
You can't tell a story with that.
With the music itself, you could if you could incorporate that into a score, it should be fantastic.
They could have.
But I don't think when they were making Bohemian Rhapsody, I don't think there was any foresight to have any synchronicity with the music of Queen and the structure of the film.
No.
It's not melded together. It's very separate.
Yeah, it's like a documentary with films over the top of it.
Yeah, which is like, I could watch one of the many documentaries about Queen and Freddie Mercury,
and then just listen to an album.
Yeah.
Didn't need 10 years for that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the stuff in Bohemian is bad. I think the outfits are not presented enough.
No.
In Bohemian, like, his outfits are also so, like, both of them, the outfits are so iconic, whereas in Rocketman, like, it's presented as his character's like mask, and it's really present in the scene and like part of the scene, whereas you'll just see Freddie kind of wearing his thing from that music video, the drag, for like barely anything. By the way, I would have loved to have seen like that, much more of that music video, because I was a big fan of that story, which as far as I can tell is real, that he didn't make the music video, Roger did, and he got all the trouble about it because he's gay and all that stuff. And then you see his iconic tank top, jeans, and the armband. I can't think
and the sambas.
I can't think of another scene where he's wearing like an iconic.
I think they do
shirtless is one, isn't it?
Oh no, they do the yellow like soldier's jacket. I don't know if that's in there, but that's another iconic one.
He wears a soldier jacket at a party, like he wears a kind of...
I know he's got a crown on, hasn't he? But there's a really iconic one where he wears aviators and a yellow soldier jacket.
He does actually wear the onesie at one point, that like kind of black and white
Harlequin.
I don't know
because John Robbins wears that in a Tasman. I mean, John Robbins, who's that comedian and being a fan of Queen, tells you all you need to know.
Okay.
I think about Queen, but yeah, because he wears that jacket on Taskmaster.
Yeah, I just think it's like they just missed to have this big, gay, flamboyant icon and have a film that's so dreadfully boring.
I think Bohemian Rhapsody misses Freddie Mercury.
Yeah.
I think if Freddie Mercury's alive, it'd be a much better film because it's almost like they dumb it down, like the other band members take away stuff that Freddie Mercury would have had in.
I think Freddie would have been very much like Elton, because Elton produces Rocketman as well. He's a part of the production. Rocket Films, that's his production company, make the film, and and I'm sure it probably is after a tell-all memoir, but he really just lays it all out on the table, lets the filmmakers choose what to incorporate and what works and what doesn't. Like, he just tells everything, and I think that's because Elton trusted them. He trusted Dexter Fletcher. He trusted Taron Egerton because this is the third film they've made together. He had made Romeo and Juliet 2, not 1, but 2, which uses a lot of Elton John music, and Taron Egerton is in there. And he made Sing, which Taron Egerton actually sings I'm Still Standing in that song. So, like, I think Elton John reached a point where he's like, I am comfortable enough with who I am now, because he's been clean for 26 years or whatever at that point, and I trust these people and I'm a part of it, so I can veto anything I want. But he tells us just this honest story about his life. And I think Freddie, if he was alive, I think he would be on the same page, as far as I can tell.
And with Rocketman, Elton John's husband, David Hershaw, I think. Furnish, yeah.
He's not in it, of course.
No, he's not in it, but he was a producer on the film. So, and I think he is a film director, or he's in film somehow, or a producer or something. Yeah, so he was involved in the making of Rocketman, and who better to be as close as he has to Elton John, do you know what I mean? And that's another factor of, like, David was there to retell the story of his partner, and then that just adds to the trust, because he knows that, you know, they wouldn't take it too far. But I don't think they could have taken it too far, because it seemed like Elton was pretty okay with most of it.
In interviews with Taron Egerton, they seem very chummy.
Very chummy, yeah. I think they're big. I was surprised, actually, because we'll just let the listeners know that you, Jules, saw Elton John at Glastonbury last year.
Yes, I did, yeah.
Nice.
But I said to you before you go, it might have been Elliot as well, but I think it was you, I really thought they were going to bring out Taron Egerton. I was so sure of it. I was so sure of it. Dua Lipa and all that stuff, didn't they?
No. They brought out some other guy I can't remember the name of.
Big fan. Yeah.
I didn't actually fall asleep for that one. But they played his new stuff, and I was like,
yeah. Which, I wouldn't have liked either, to be fair.
Good set, though. Good set.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
No, I was there, so yeah.
You know, he's a great showman.
He is the greatest showman.
Voice has gone a little.
Well, not the greatest, but Hugh Jackman, obviously. Triple threat. But yeah, I thought so much Bohemian is just lazy, and then when you watch Rocketman, it's just not lazy. All the transitions in Bohemian, boring, lazy, going from one scene to the other, boring, lazy. The text they use, like when they're going to...
Say it again.
What?
Boring, lazy.
Sorry, that's it. It's just...
Tell us what you really think.
Completely derailed me. Thank you very much. It was shit. Okay. No, it wasn't actually that shit. I'd heard for years that Bohemian was like this terrible piece of work. I just heard it was absolutely terrible. I'll just say this right now. It's not great.
People love it,
but the Live Aid sequence is fantastic.
Yes,
so good. And as we're saying with Dexter Fletcher, that was probably him.
Yeah, I mean if you watch the actual 1985 Live Aid set that you can on YouTube, if anyone is interested in watching it.
I wasn't there.
I know neither, to be fair. Rami Malek managed to capture all of Freddie Mercury's mannerisms specifically for that performance. Like that was,
but not the rest of the film.
No.
Which really makes me think
He's not
the
getting
director matters, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Bloody
it's gone.
hell.
Yeah, even the small, tiny little details of like when he he turns like some dials on the piano and all his moves he does with his mic and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, I was pretty bored through that whole film, but I still enjoyed
I got emotional.
parts of it.
I got emotional with the Live Aid thing. I thought it was fantastic. That I still have issues with it. I have the note of AO cut short.
Yeah.
Because he's like going into, and that's like the famous iconic thing where he's getting the entirety of Wembley Stadium, like nothing. There's not been as big a concert, I don't think, at that point.
I think it was something mental. Like it was like
100,000.
Because then
there was 100,000 people in the crowd, but then like worldwide viewing it,
1.5
billion, yeah.
people watching that. Just insane, and
it's a hell of a show.
a hell of a show.
But still not the greatest show.
Not the greatest show.
Yeah, we'll leave that to Hugh.
We'll leave that to Hugh.
What do we? What do you think about the difference between the two, like, love interests? Because they both have that same. So they've got like Paul Prenter in Bohemian Rhapsody and
Mary. Do you mean Mary?
You're talking about the male.
The male.
Oh, the male one.
Not their beards.
No.
The bit we will
Not
talk.
the female.
We will talk about the beards
okay.
because that is interesting.
Yeah.
But sorry, yes. Who? Yes. So John Reed, bastard man,
and
manager.
And Paul Prenter is the other guy that's made
The other bastard man. First off, I thought it was John Reed was both of those things. That's what I had heard before watching Bohemian Rhapsody, that he conned both of these men in like pretty much the same way. But it would seem that John Reed had a lot less of a part in Freddie's life than Elton's. Just bastard men. I love
Bastard man.
John Reed is a bastard man.
Callum has his hands on his hips.
I do.
Yeah.
I'm getting quite into it. But he's great. The performance is great in Rocketman. Absolutely, the performance is so good. And I forget his name, Mr. Game of Thrones Eternals.
Yes.
He's very good in the role and very menacing, and you can believe like the narcissism of him and the way he is able to manipulate a very young Elton John, because his breakout performance, The Troubadour, he's like 23, and then he's
crazy.
And then he's a multi-millionaire by 25. It's absolutely insane. Like, I believe him as a character, even if he, is a hateful someone you can hate. He does it so well. But that guy, what was his name?
Paul Prenter.
Paul Prenter. He was a prick.
See the Irish one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he was Irish. Sorry, yeah. He was a prick, and he definitely did the exact same thing, basically. Although John Reed was very much about using Elton as a business to make as much money as possible, because he swindled 20% of his earnings out of him. Even now, I think he's dead now. But until he died, he had 20% of all of Elton's earnings, which is insane. Whereas the other guy, he kind of just hides Freddie away and kind of just uses Freddie to live a life. He wants to, he gets to live in Freddie's house and he gets to use Freddie's money, but he doesn't swindle him into owning anything.
He tries to blackmail him as well, doesn't he? And say
with the interview and the pictures,
and
he
stuff
sells
like that.
He sells the story, yeah.
Which
for 30,000.
It's not a lot, really, is it? In the grand scheme of things,
considering who he was.
Because Freddie Mercury gets like 4 million for one of the deals, which obviously
he got 4 million for 2 albums. Right,
Yeah.
That's the deal he says in the film.
That's a lot.
Pretty good.
A lot of money.
Yeah.
More than any Queen deal.
Yep.
They made it explicitly clear. Although in real life, none of them cared, did they? They all mutually decided to have a break, from what I read.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So just another thing in the film where I'm just like, well.
But yeah, that's the thing too. Like,
I'd rather they were just nice friends. Like, can't they? You could have an interesting story where they're just nice friends to each other.
Yeah, like there doesn't have to be any, like, the whole film. Yeah, I so agree with what you're saying about how,
because that's what Jamie Bell is.
Yeah.
Jamie Bell's just always nice to him, even when they argue. Because I have the quote. There's like this one big argument where Elton's just like, just fucking write the music, Bernie, and he gets to start him off. And then he comes back, hold his hands, and he says, I'm sorry. And the other guy just says, I know. And it's just like, kind of like, they're like they call each other brothers, don't they?
It's the rehab scene where he's like he walks in
afterwards
finally,
as well. Yeah,
that's the teary.
Whereas I got the impression that they're not really that close with Freddie.
No,
not to the same degree.
In interviews afterwards, like in real interviews, it does come across that way where Freddie Mercury is like, you know, we like different things. They just go and see rock concerts. I like to go into the opera and ballet and stuff, and they're not about. They got families and stuff. And then, like after that, there's another one where he's like, "Yeah, if we didn't make music together, we would never see each other."
Oh, there you go, right?
So it's just they're not angry at each other. He doesn't come across like he hates each other.
But that's the thing is like everything you read that happened in real life, it contradicts the film massively because I agree with what you're saying as well, Callum. Like what you're saying is, you know, there didn't have to be any animosity between them for it to be a good film. I feel like that was just added as a sort of desperate attempt to make it more interesting. Whereas in actual fact, if they'd have just stick to the real story
music
and made it more about, you know, the rise of the band in and the intricacies that went with that, it would have been way more interesting.
Yeah, because there's so many scene to scene that are the same.
Yeah.
So there is a scene where Elton John really just loses it, and the kind of like orgy scene where he's just like taking everything on the sun, fucking everyone, and it's a really good, because it's basically a musical number. It's really good, and the surrealism of it all, it just gets across the point. It's really kind of great, and it shows enough to be like, you know what we're talking about. We don't need to show, you know, full penetration or what, you know, that's unnecessary. Whereas in Bohemian, he walks through a club.
A red club.
a bright red club.
With everybody dressed in leather.
We all know what that means.
Wearing all the BDSM gear, and it's just like...
Is it BDSM? Bondage?
BDSM gear.
Yeah.
And
bondage?
I don't know, I'm not allegedly.
But it's not playing a Queen song, it's just kind of playing some bassy kind
Club
of
music.
nothing.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean anything. It just doesn't... It means so little in comparison to... like the athleticism in the scene of Rocketman, and like his clothes he has the initial like, okay, I'm gonna dive into this sea of people, because that's how it's presented in the scene, but like he only takes his jacket off. It's everyone else that then kind of like, you know, takes bits away from him, and you know, all that kind of abstract stuff that just delivers the point so much better for me.
Yeah. The one thing I really struggled with watching it with Rocketman, not in like that I didn't like it, was that like emotionally was his whole like his relationship with his parents, man, was fucking mental.
The mum
like his mum and dad both like evil, nasty, horrible people.
His dad's a bastard, man.
And like, but then
his mum with those comments, those sly comments.
Oh my god,
they're the knife in like the side, and because she uses him as like a
you know, a party. He doesn't
dad.
go to one of her birthday parties, so she hires a Elton John impersonator in real life.
She sounded like, and then but his grandma, she seemed lovely. She was.
I have a note that says "God bless Nanas."
Yeah. Genuinely, like she took him to the Royal Institute of Music.
Imagine if he never went to that fucking audition.
I know, right?
Like,
crazy.
Because the mum was like, "Got things to do on the weekends. Can't drop everything. Fuck off. It's your child.
Yeah.
You are meant to drop things for your child. Go look after them and support
and then
them."
Like the most heartbreaking scene about that is when he goes to visit his dad, and his dad's got like a new family. And then he sees, and then he asks him to sign that record.
Yeah.
I'd have fucking snapped that thing and gone, go fuck yourself.
Well, the quote at the end is, everything turned out second time round. And his dad goes, yeah, guess it did. Just like no acknowledgement of the pain and suffering he's put onto his child. Yeah.
And then he picks up his son, and then like that was the bit that I was like, fucking hell.
Yeah, he'll touch it, because when Ellen goes to that, they like don't know whether to hug her, and then they just do nothing. They don't even touch. So yeah.
But I think that's what, because in Bohemian Rhapsody, you know, he has problems with his family, but they aren't explored, and that's why I don't know.
Missing that heart.
I feel like I know nothing more about Freddie Mercury having watched that film And I don't know if I don't know if that is either sanitized or not. I don't really know very much about Queen. Apparently, most of the reviews are like it's 90% lies, and other people are like that's generous. I'd say 95.
Yeah,
but like I don't like the parent
10 out of
thing. 10 out of 10, fantastic. Love Queen. Long live the Queen.
Long live Queen.
Yeah,
And it's like, but I just don't know anything more. Whereas I watch Rocketman and I know a lot more about Elton John.
Yeah,
yeah, man. Like he had a fucking terrible time when he was a kid and
he's breaking out of
teenager
it.
and early 20s. Yeah, there's no, coincidence that most famous musicians
live this life.
have that same upbringing of
Breaking
like their
them all.
parents don't give a shit. So but some people
Well-
say it's like a cry for attention, and in a way it is. But
is.
also like they've got a channeling that energy into a positive thing is basically what they've done. So I think it's quite
especially
admirable
for
in a way.
these two gay men who are clearly gay from a young age, and their dad not getting it.
Yeah.
Not liking who they're becoming, not accepting them, and therefore these two people going, well, if you don't accept me as this, watch how far I can push it. I'm going to turn into someone else that you would, you would never like.
But that's the point about those, especially with the Elton John one. It's not like the dad's a bad person because of the person Elton John is, just fundamentally. Like it's like that's why it's quite horrible, because it's not like. By the way, I don't know 100%, but it's like that's why it's horrible, because it's putting everything onto Elton John as the reason why his dad's a bad person.
In the end, though,
because of
at the start, it doesn't present it like that. At the start, it just presents him as a man who went to war, because they sing the Moses. I don't know which song they sing at that point, but the dad sings a line which is shot full of holes, can't feel anything. And that's how he's presented at the start, that he just is a cold man and that's who he is. But then it is revealed, no, he hated his wife and he hated his kid, and the second time round he got what he wanted. And that kid is great in it as well, who plays the young Elton.
He's fantastic.
And I like the in-between kid as well. I think he's really good. I have a note that says little boy Elvis when he gets his Elvis.
Yeah.
Well, actually, if we're talking about dads, the stepdad to Elton from Phone Shop,
He's all right.
great guy.
Yeah.
Seems like he's really supporting. He's just like, you want to be a rocker? Well, we'll get you the proper hair.
Yeah.
Presumably, he went and took him to get the proper hair then.
But then his mum was a bitch the whole time.
Yeah,
She is so horrible.
I'd say he did seem like a nice guy, but then
you don't know.
yeah, but
you don't actually.
Also, when they're in the restaurant and she says that horrible thing to him at the end, like, oh, you don't know how hard it is to be your mother, and
He's not defending Elton. Yeah, he's
No,
there for the
yeah.
mum, not Elton.
Yeah.
but passively, he is very nice.
Yeah.
to Elton.
Also, I don't know how much he's involved in making the film, so there could be two sides to the story from him, because obviously Elton John's telling the story.
Yeah.
But
But then Elton John chose not to portray him as a bastard, so
Yeah, well,
presumably he wasn't.
But yeah.
You know? It just made me think about like videos you watch of like stepdads, and the kids come up to like the stepdad and they have the official paperwork to make them their
The
real
adoption,
dad,
yeah.
and it always gets me very
That gets
emotional.
me-
Very emotional,
gets me right
and
up
it just gave me that feeling of just like some people just want to be parents. They just want to be, good for children, and some people just don't, unless it's perfect, unless it's what they want, that maybe they're not actually cut out for it.
yeah.
But yeah, I think it was a bit of a shame that in the Bohemian Rhapsody that they didn't delve into that.
They definitely should have.
And they should have, because that's it's such an interesting dynamic of like somebody who came from an immigrant family.
Zoroastrianism, very like, I mean, it's
Conservative,
one of the
they
oldest
say.
religions, and like hardly anyone is a Zoroastrian. You could have like quite a lot of interesting stuff going on. And the dad seems to be a nice guy. He's just
do you
struggling
research?
with what's going on.
Yeah.
When his dad gives him a hug at the end, and
that's nice.
that bit's nice.
But it feels less because
it could have been so much more.
Yeah, exactly.
More, because the mum's always kind of in his side, but he's protecting the dad and whatever else. I mean,
Dad doesn't say anything.
Personally, he should have left the dad for being. I mean, but that's the other thing. You don't get a strong feeling from him either way. He would just prefer him to be the little box.
Also, his sister's hardly in it too. Like she says about five
nice
words in it, and she seems very accepting. And she actually, Freddie Mercury's sister, actually lives on Mapley Top.
Really?
In Nottingham.
In Nottingham?
Yeah.
Do you know? I think I might have heard that before, but no.
That's crazy.
No, genuinely.
Someone has definitely told me that before.
No, genuinely.
You're moving there.
No, I'm not.
So, and she's
Cut that.
and she's got parked in the drive of her house. She's got Freddie Mercury's Rolls Royce parked in her drive.
Oh god.
Genuinely, that's facts.
Looks like we're going on a road trip, boys.
Yeah, we're going to do some research. And also, I found interesting, and I knew this about both of them, was that they both got married to women, even though they were both.
Yeah, it's sad.
It's real
so
sad. It's horrible for them.
But they both love those women.
But Freddie Mercury.
They're both very nice to those women. Yeah, after the fact,
And they're a big
all
part of
that.
their life.
Yeah,
But the other thing is like the first woman to Freddie,
Mary.
they were together for years.
Yeah. Got married.
And it is that weird thing. Because also, like, they go to orgies and Elton goes to orgies as well. So presumably, swing both ways in those situations. And, sexuality is fluid and blah, blah, blah. Like, he chose to get engaged and he chose to, like, do these things. And it's just crazy to me as someone who is not gay, like, how suppressed is that? That's crazy.
But that's a reflection on the time as well, isn't it?
Because he believed it, though.
Yeah,
he was
I know.
in love, and he is in love with that woman because he's very
just-
nice to her after the fact, as well, and she's obviously very understanding of it as well. It's just it's crazy to be in that situation.
It's a reflection of the time of the 70s, 60s.
Yeah.
You did still hear about it. Even nowadays, like
Liberace had a wife as well, right, didn't he?
You hear
Well,
about it less and
The
less.
reality is that the reality is that people get married, men and women get married, but your sexuality is you're attracted to men, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you equate both together. You would still potentially say you have a relationship with like
Well, because he says to Mary, doesn't he? He's like, I think I'm bisexual, and then she's like, no, you're gay.
and people could want the family, they could want the husband-wife dynamic, but of course, gay people can't get married then, or they can't even be partners.
No.
It's still, I think it might be
Well,
illegal.
I think it might have been still a psychiatric.
and you would be.
It was it was a psychiatric thing until like the 2000s, wasn't it? It was still like a mental illness.
So
or
you would
whatever.
do that because that's the kind
Was
of
it?
standard.
Do you not know that?
No.
Yeah. Like, I think until like the 2000s, it was deemed a mental illness to be gay in the UK. That's how the British.
Being gay was legalized in 1967.
But it was still a mental illness for like decades afterwards, which is crazy.
That is crazy.
And so sorry for all those people.
But Mary actually ended up. So when Freddie Mercury died, he actually left all of his money to Mary.
Yeah, I did read that as well. It's nice, very nice thing. And she seems to be very supportive of him because they loved each other. So, like, even if, sexually they're not compatible, like, they do have a deep love for each other and they were very supportive of each other and their lives and stuff like that. I do have the note, the wife turned seemingly out of nowhere. Like when because it's not given enough time basically for her to develop. Like he goes off and touring and he's meeting some lot lizards.
Some truck stop
some gay
bathrooms.
truckers, one of my facts is that's played by Adam Lambert, who toured with Queen in the 2010s. He is going off and presumably cheating. And having gay sex and doing all this stuff, and she's just not given enough time, and that like sequence isn't given enough time for her kind of paranoia to be justified.
Yeah, and also like you say, you don't really see anything. Like you just see Freddie Mercury watch a bloke walk into a toilet. Essentially,
He doesn't follow
and he doesn't even follow him in. It's just sort of like all
implied,
that stuff is like all that stuff is just glazed over, and they don't really. And I know what you mean. It just sort of out of
can
nowhere
come across negatively.
But then she says
negatively
in terms of like you're not
showing it.
You're not showing it. Therefore, it's like not a scene.
Because if there was a Hugh Grant biopic and it didn't show him going into bathrooms, it's not really a Hugh Grant film, is it?
Yeah.
You have to show the bad with the good.
Yeah.
Homosexuality was declassified as a disorder in 1973.
1973.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, much earlier than I thought. Then actually, fair enough.
Still crazy.
There was a
though.
gender dysphoria thing where they stopped calling it dysphoria.
Right,
I think, or disorder or something.
disorder,
I think they called
yeah.
it. I think they changed it from disorder to dysphoria
Right. Okay.
in 2013. But that was the gender
Just
stuff.
renamed it, yeah. And then I have the note because after basically he doesn't have a wife and he's kind of learning how to have this life as like a single gay man.
Seems friendless.
I just have the note of gay, lonely and mad.
Yeah, I've got exactly the same thing. He seems very lonely, like a big child who's lonely.
Yeah. Because, his friends all have
He rings
wives.
her up, doesn't he? And he's like, "Oh, could you
That
take a
is
drink,
so
darling?"
weird.
It's so tragic.
Oh, it's so tragic.
And he's like, have you got your drink? And she's just sat on a bed with nothing. Like, yeah, I've got my
mean, if
drink.
that-
felt
is that-
so bad for
Because I
her.
don't. Is that? I mean, I don't know if that scene is real. But if I was Freddie Mercury, I'd be a bit annoyed if that was not a real scene. So you're making me look like a tragic child,
There's better ways to convey someone being lonely.
just
than,
like Rocketman did, where he comes across as being lonely.
Yeah, than to do that whole scene with the flicking of the lamps and the having a glass of champagne.
But like you say, as far as I found, it's true.
Obviously.
Like I didn't see anything about that scene, so because presumably she did live on that estate afterwards.
Yeah.
He was invited her to stay on that estate and all that. But yeah, bad.
I mean, I liked the whole sort of going to Rocketman. I've really liked the whole imagery of when, like the opening scene when he walks.
All the imagery is fantastic. in
Yeah,
Rocketman.
my favourite part though was like throughout when he's in the sort of rehab centre and he's in the circle and like the costume slowly gets broken away and
He's shedding away his
shedding away.
layers.
Yeah.
It's such a good
It's
metaphor.
so good, man, and it's like it's just so simple,
Especially
but
because
so
the costume
good.
he goes in with is this like fallen angel thing, and that's he's fallen from who he was and who he wants to
Someone
be.
spent some time to think about how they're going to do it.
Honestly, just spend some time thinking
Yeah.
about it.
Well, they were saying as well when they did the first day of production of Bohemian Rhapsody, the first scene that they recorded was the Live Aid gig. That was the day one of shooting.
So
that goes against that's Bryan Singer. Then that goes
It must
against
be
the
Bryan
theory.
Singer, yeah.
Day one was that. That's nuts, isn't it? For a day one of shooting.
But then,
Yeah,
so
but
he
that's what-
must have
that's what-
directed it. But
If it was the most expensive thing, I guess they would probably do it first
Yeah.
to keep it tight.
then the thing is, they did
then
take ages to do it.
because if you do it first, you can cut back elsewhere in the production. You can be like, well, we can cut that because we went over on the Live Aid section.
Yeah.
and the Live Aid section is fantastic. It should have been the whole thing. The whole performance.
And what
it should have been 20 minutes straight.
And songs going back into that
No
sort of thing.
cuts of them just performing it.
Oh, I see. You want the whole.
I
you
want
just the
I
whole
want a
gig.
one shot of that gig completely and utterly, and then for it to just fade to black.
Yeah.
And just be like, fucking hell, that was incredible.
Yeah.
And
to remake it
then
would
do the little bits at the end. But yeah, like I'll say this right now, Rocketman for me is a 10 out of 10 film. I absolutely love it. I have done musical theatre. I performed on stage, and people, I think, misconstrue musicals a lot of the time, and fair enough, because most of them are bad. I know a lot of people that are very into musicals, and they like love pretty much all of them. For me, it takes a lot for a musical to work, and Rocketman for me does it almost perfectly, especially because it's not a stage musical, it's a musical film. And a problem with a lot of musicals, when they are made into films, they do not then use the medium of film to heighten anything. They don't add any of the abstract stuff. Whereas we'll talk about, I said the transitions are bad in Bohemian Rhapsody. The transitions in Rocketman are fucking incredible. Yeah. The way, even just the opening, it has Rocketman on the screen. He opens the doors, it bats the words away. Just instantly kinetic energy throughout this entire film. My favourite transition is the Rocketman transition into the plane. So good, so good, and it just keeps you engaged.
And
he's
he's like smoking on the top
and he's
of his
smoking
head.
on his
Yeah,
hair,
it's
and he's
brilliant.
Very fun
because
very
he's out of it as well. So he doesn't know what's real because he's taking all these drugs. It gets the surrealism and the absurdism. It gets worse and worse, and also he is recounting this as a story. In the A place as well, the rehab place. So all of it works for me. The surrealism, the abstract, the metaphors, it just all gets it perfect. And as I said before, the music is worked into the score So it's giving emphasis. It's giving a motif of him becoming himself, becoming the real Elton Hercules John at the end of the film. I absolutely love this film. I just want to talk about Saturday Night. It's a great night for fighting.
Mm-hmm.
What a great number. It is just so good.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 2-shot. There is one cut in that entire thing. There is more than one cut. There's fake, the cuts where they stitch them together. So when he goes through like the hole in the fence, that's stitched together to then make the appearance of one roll on the camera. But there is only one cut in that whole sequence, which is when they're doing the dance number and this girl screams fight. There's one quick cut. And that's because that's what it is asking for. It's asking for a cut to fight, and then someone gets punched, and then the entire rest of the scene is another one shot. The dancing's great in it. The costumes are great in it. Like, you really get a sense of the
70s.
the 60s at that point. So they are like wearing what are they called, modders. So it's all like modders in the ground fair in that scene, because he hasn't broken out yet, which is, so I believe it's still the 60s, because he's doing it local pub. And then it gets some Indian music in there, and because you can see the Indian influence on all the clothes. There's so much paisley in Rocketman. I loved so much of the clothes, so much of the paisley shirts and stuff. I thought it was great. It just stands out. It's just colourful and good, and I love it.
Yeah, and then they've got the like soul and Motown.
Yeah, those influences on his stuff.
Boots and braces like the skinheads and stuff.
Yeah,
and then,
he's prolific.
It just shows more of like the iconic eras of Britain, especially
Northern
within
soul.
music.
That's what I meant to say.
Northern soul. More so than Queen does. There's some nice costumes and some flamboyant stuff, but there's nothing. Every choice in Rocketman feels so deliberate. So just like we're
and
doing
perfectly
this,
executed,
and it's just so good. I love it.
Yep.
I love the Troubadour. And the other one is Crocodile Rock is great at the Troubadour's play out show. When they're all floating, such a good way to show that everything's changed. His life has changed. That this is an iconic moment in music history. This is an iconic moment in his life. Like, that is. Because he even reads the review afterwards, like it's such a I think the wording is like it was a magical evening, and like that's, as a performer, if you can reach that, that's what you're going for.
But I think that point you made about like showing the times through the songs and like how it goes through the film, like I don't get much of a sense of the times in Queen. I think it's quite insular. There's a lot of scenes there in an office arguing about records and films and like making the stuff, whereas in Rocketman it's like it spends more of its time being like, oh look, the 60s, look at the 70s, look at the 80s, and like this is like this is my life through them.
The only way
more interesting.
The only way I knew it got to the 80s in Bohemian Rhapsody is because the guy's office was glass. And they cut his hair and like all this
and it's
stuff.
all wood paneling.
The scene previous is all wood paneling of the 70s, and then it's all glass and chrome and gross. Just
although having said all that, the reception to these films is both positive but also wildly different scales.
Complete opposite of what I say about these films as well. I mean, Rami Malek won an Oscar for Best Actor. I'm sorry, Rami. You're incredible in iRobot, which apparently is why he got the job.
Mr. Robot,
sorry. Which apparently is why he got the job, because he's so incredible in Mr. Robot.
Yeah.
But this is not your best performance.
No.
By far. And it's not the best performance even in that film, I would say. Although I'm struggling to remember who else is in the film. But Rocketman's better. Taron Egerton's better. Stephen Graham's great. Jamie Bell. He's in 2 of our films now.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
Crazy.
Jamie, but when he turned up, I was like, nice.
Oh, mate,
There you
good
go.
to see you. I have the note of Jamie Bell living his best life.
Yeah.
Because that's all because he's not the front man. He's not getting all that attention.
Well, we've got to do
He's
Billy
just having a nice time, having all the threesomes in the world, it would appear. Just living his best life, having a lovely time. Yeah. Good for him.
Good for him.
Don't blame the bloke.
Well done. Nice
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
Nice life. But yeah, I mean, like the scale of the success is insane. So Rocketman is 40 million to make budget, and they make 200 million at the box office.
Right.
Good.
Bohemian
That's good return.
Rhapsody, it was very successful.
Yeah.
And then Bohemian Rhapsody is 55 million to make, returns almost $1 billion. I think it might be 910, 920.
In,
That-
in
huge.
2018.
That's a big
That's a
old.
hefty return. That's
I
got
just-
in terms of like scale of return and like magnitude.
With a
it's
trouble
huge.
production, with 2 directors.
10 years of pissing around.
It is undeserved. Like, it's insane. To make $1 billion, which presumably it's all in dollars,
Yeah.
like to make $1 billion in 2018, I think that's kind of the reason it was pre-COVID, and like films were just making so much money just before COVID hit. It's like
I did not know it
insane.
was this big.
I did, because I was very annoyed at the time.
Maybe it's because of
the
begs.
die-hard fans.
Well, yeah, I was going to say it begs the question.
Elton John's got diehard fans.
Yeah,
Surely
But I
not as
think-
many as Queen.
I think they're just more. I don't think they're
Rock
die-hard
and
though.
roll.
I think Queen Bohemian Rhapsody was way more anticipated because nobody really knew what was going on behind
Yeah.
the scenes, and they thought that this would be finally a window into like understanding more about the band. Although it made a lot of money, I bet people walked out of there like quite disappointed.
People love it. The reviews
Love it.
are stonking.
and they got Oscars. Not just Rami won. I can't remember what
in
the
the same reviews,
probably
people
for
are saying
music,
this is
which
all
is probably one
lies,
of the
but 10 out of 10.
Yeah,
Crazy.
Oh, I don't.
it's insane. It's insane because it's clear as day.
I mean, they
Rocketman's
rate
so much
Rocketman
better.
worse, and they come up with no reason for it. So it's just a bit over the top and silly.
Most of the reviews I read said the problem was it was a musical, and I think go fuck yourself.
As a musical man.
Not even as a musical man.
it's silly.
It just works. It works as a film.
Also, these musicians, I don't
Stop
really-
not watching things because of your predetermined notions. Like, just get over yourself. I am so looking forward to this new Joker film because it's a musical and it's going to piss off all the incels that love the first one. I'm so looking forward to it.
There is a preconception for musicals in the fact that like people think that you're gay if you watch
Yep.
musicals.
Exactly.
yeah.
And
Exactly.
it's like, but that's obviously not the case because it's like it's just associated with that. So I think most people saying that are probably just a bit uncomfortable with who they are.
For
maybe.
sure. And once again, I get it. You've gone to the theatre and you've spent a lot more money than you do going to the cinema.
Yeah.
And you've watched something that's not great. And I get it. But you've probably seen an amateur dramatic thing. Like, these people are not getting paid to do it. You know, I've never done professional theatre. I've only done Amdram stuff. And I know the prices of, amateur dramatic stuff. And the price of amateur dramatic stuff is expensive now. Some of the tickets are like 20, 25, 30. Like pantomimes. Pantomimes are mostly... the one at Nottingham Playhouse is kind of semi-professional, I guess you could call it. I don't think the actors are professionals, but like
They get
the writer
like
will.
EastEnders people in and stuff like that.
No, that's the Royal.
Oh, the Royal.
The Royal is a professional one because they buy in a pantomime, whereas the Playhouse and the Nottingham Arts Theatre, i.e. my mother, produces the pantomimes that they do. They make it, they write it. So like the writers get some money, but it's mostly just expenses.
Yeah.
Like you're just getting your
I wonder if
stuff
it's linked
covered.
to like High School Musical when we were kids and stuff like that.
Being
Certainly
such
for
a
me.
big thing.
And it's just seen as a bit like rubbish and musicals are rubbish, and there's lots of that kind of stuff, and it's just seen as kind of
It definitely
childish
would have
or-
been like a lot of people our generation's their first one. But like I know there's loads of
people
there's
don't like
loads of people that say they don't like musicals, and then they'll say one of their favorite films is like Little Shop of Horrors. I know 2 people where that's the case, and they'll go, yeah, I'm not going to watch a musical. Little Shop of Horrors though is like one of my closest films in my heart.
One of the most bonkers things I've ever heard someone say, it's very similar to what you've just said, is they said, I don't like musicals, but I like the Rocky Horror Show. And I was like, that is literally the biggest, that's like one of the most iconic
One
musicals
of the most iconic, yeah.
in the world.
Especially back then. And
It's like,
and
what
it's
are
a
you
good
talking about?
It's a good show. It's got good music and
Which musicals don't you like?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But you just
Honestly,
say like,
just
I
go
like
watch some good ones.
Not all. That's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I am not the hugest fan of fantasy, but I like fantasy. I really like the new Dungeons and Dragons film that came out like a couple of years ago. Thought that was great.
Yeah, that is a banger.
haven't seen it.
really good.
Just to put yourself off from a complete genre, especially
genre bashing, isn't it?
especially a genre that's like the oldest. It's like the oldest thing, contemporary thing there is, like modern in terms of like production.
Doing music and
Musicals are somewhat modern because they're not like classical concerts and they're not operas and they're not Shakespeare. They were like the new cool modern thing. And I get it, you know, the classic West Side Story film from like the 60s essentially is just a stage performance on it's just on a soundstage and they just filmed it. It's, you know, I really like it and it's good, but I can get why you wouldn't want that.
Yeah.
But Steven Spielberg remade it fantastically, by the way. Cinematography, everything in it's so good, and it's like Rocketman. It's very kinetic and all that stuff. It bombed. No one wanted to see it. I saw it at the cinema, but no one saw it.
Because I mean, I'm not a massive fan of musicals in terms of I just haven't been a fan of many of the musicals I've watched. But it doesn't mean I would say that they're shit.
Yeah.
It's just you're just genre bashing, aren't you? Really.
And you know, there is a difference between seeing a musical film, especially like Rocketman. I think it's like just the perfect example of a musical film. I think In the Heights is very good as well as when it comes to musical films. But like musicals are a different ballpark. If you don't enjoy going to the theatre, you're not going to enjoy
going to
watch a musical. Like fine, like the Rocky Horror one is very iconic because it's like Tim Curry is the guy in drag. I can never remember the name.
Dr. Frankenfurter,
Well done.
I think.
I have no idea.
Allegedly.
It's a funny name.
Yeah. Like, and Little Shop of Horrors, I think, is great when it comes to film as well, especially because it's like that Ghostbusters 80s vibe of filmmaking as well. I just think, give it a go, give it a chance.
Yeah, it's like when people fucking say they don't like food when they've never tried it. Do you know what I mean?
I thought you were going to say horrors because of Joolz.
No. It's like when people go like, oh, do you want cheese on toast? They go, I don't like cheese. I'm like, well, have you ever tried cheese? And they go, no. It's like, well, how the fuck do you know? If you've never watched it, you just think you're not going to like it.
But these people are literally watch the film and then they still don't like it because it's been done like a musical. So it goes deeper than that. Like, they're not even saying, oh, I won't watch it.
No.
But in fact, a lot of them have said
they've actually given it a go.
But the box office is low, probably because they don't like musicals.
I mean, you say low, it's quadruple the budget. That's a very good... Well, Rocketman, you said 40 and then... sorry, it is 5 times, yeah. That's a very good return on investment. Yeah, that's a very successful return.
Oh, yeah.
It's a good return, yeah.
Especially for a musical.
But it's just given that they're in the
for-
same time period,
A year
the fact
apart,
that Bohemian
yeah.
Rhapsody does so much better makes you think, well, actually, Rocketman hasn't done as well as it's
I
done.
also think that just everyone was burnt out by Bohemian Rhapsody. They were just like, oh, not another one.
Oh, Bohemian Rhapsody is rubbish. Rocketman will be rubbish. Could be that.
Could be that, but also just like, well, I saw one of these last year. I'm not going to bother seeing another one.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's out yet, but haven't they done recently one about Amy Winehouse?
Yeah, apparently it's bad.
I've heard it's also bad
heard
because they've
it's
also
bad.
done one about Bob Marley.
Bob Marley was this year as well. Apparently
Ray's
bad.
great though. That was 2004. Ray Charles.
Oh,
Oh,
was that
Ray-
Jamie Foxx?
Ray is good. It's long,
Yeah,
but it is good.
I've seen that film. That
He's
film's great.
perfect.
Yeah,
Once
yeah.
again, Ray Charles alive at the time of filming, so I think he's very honest about like his heroin
Yeah.
use. Like it's great.
And like,
That's the hard one.
And his you know,
You have Elvis
childhood
as well.
and stuff. Like his childhood was fucking.
Unfortunately,
mental.
I had watched the Dewey Cox story before I watched Ray, and it's just the take piss of Ray.
Yeah,
Don't know if
yeah.
you've ever seen that one.
No, I haven't
John
seen
C.
that.
Reilly. It's very funny.
No, but then you had Elvis as well because there was
of Austin Butler.
Which once again did very well.
Yeah.
But the reviews are all horrible for it, from what I remember.
Well, there's a lot of-
apparently, well, first off, he lost his like accent, but apparently, like Tom Hanks in the fat suit and whatever, it's just like gross to watch. And because it's Baz Luhrmann, who does musicals, by the way. Apparently, like he's a very frantic kind of like editing style and like stuff like that. What I heard was not great about it. So yeah, you know, I really did like Bohemian more than I thought I was going to, but it just does not hand a candle to Elton John's
Well, that comes
Rocketman.
across,
A candle in the wind. The wind blew it out for Bohemian. Yeah, I absolutely love Rocketman. I've probably seen it up upwards of 5, not 10 times. I own it. I have it on Amazon.
Yeah.
Because it's so kinetic. It has like that Edgar Wright feel, I feel. You know, it just like very engaging, constantly, very, very clever. But yeah, I'll just run through some of the notes I haven't said. So for Bohemian, this might annoy a lot of people, but I put Super Freak was my favourite song. They play Super Freak by Chic in a party that Freddie Mercury has, and I was like, oh, this is such a banger. And it's so different. I think it's just because it was so different from everything else in the film that I was like, oh yeah, I love this song. We didn't even dive into the I Want to Break Free backlash. I mean, we talked about it, but basically Roger Taylor had this idea for them to do a music video in drag. I really like that song. I really like I Want to Break Free as well. I think it's a good song. I like the music video. I think it's very fitting for them. It's kind of like supporting Freddie as well, but you know, especially if it's his idea. But basically Freddie Mercury got loads of backlash for it, too conservative of the time to even show the music video on MTV. Even though like Queen helped launch MTV in its early days and stuff like that. Very, very weird stuff. Did you like the name change of Miami Beach? I can't even remember what it was beforehand.
His name was Jim Beach.
Jim Beach, and they were like, no, Miami.
Yeah, I'm gonna from now on. I doth you Miami Beach. Yeah.
Those scenes are so long in that office.
Yeah, I mean, Bohemian is famous for over editing. It's when they meet John Reed actually in the pub garden, and it cuts just which is another thing I hate, which is why I really appreciate Rocketman as well, because it does so many long takes as I've talked about. But obviously, on stage you only get one go of it, so you have to do it right. Once again, lends itself to that. I have a much better opening for Rocketman, because it is just much better.
Yeah. Although I do like the Live Aid. I think that's quite it is a grand opening.
Yeah, it is.
But I think
but I mean in comparison to the 20th Century Fox logo, doing the screeching of the guitar rather than the doors being opened and blowing away the words. I mean that specific, literally the opening shot. Right. I think is much better. I have the Dickhead Dad with a quote of "Don't be soft," which I feel like is so ubiquitous with British culture. Like I've heard that so many times.
Yep,
in my
and
life.
Worse things. Yeah,
so many times in my life.
There's some clever dialogue in Rocketman.
Yeah, it just feels honest. It just feels true. I really got the God bless Nanas. The pub quiz winnings just being a plate from the butchers, I really enjoyed.
I've been to pub quizzes where that's happened before.
You know what?
Yeah.
Bring it back. But it also shows like a sense of community.
Yeah.
Like what pub?
And they're all there like, go on, boy.
Yeah,
go on, you can do it.
Go on, lad.
Yeah.
And then you got the one dickhead patron that's like
puts his pint on the piano and it's like, fuck you, dude.
Fuck what the fuck?
Fuck off.
It's going to spill.
Yeah.
But I just thought that was great.
And also, on the piano.
Yeah, bring it back. I'd be happy with winning a tray full of meat.
Yeah, man.
From pub quiz, rather than this like £10 voucher that you can spend next week at the quiz.
It's cheaper for the pubs to do that.
I understand. Well, the butcher's just bringing in his offcuts, I would assume. There's no sense of community.
That's true. That's
the problem. But no, I £2 a week, and they're like, oh my god, £2 a week,
inflation
for each of us. Insane. Just it's just interesting. Oh,
I mean, monetary value now, that would be about, I don't know, maybe a couple of £100 a week back then.
I mean, it's hard with the inflation figures.
But it's like, because then it's the price of everything else offset by the price of what you're earning.
Yeah,
right?
but that's what I'm saying.
Everything else.
Industry's relative, so some industries earn more now.
And then they're leaving London, aren't they? They're leaving London to go up north and do the tour.
Yeah.
So presumably, you get more for your buck up there anyway. When they're doing the montage of like him becoming famous, it says 4% of all record sales were Elton. Worldwide. And then he says later in the film, it was 5%. It went up from 4% of global record sales to 5%. I mean, I say global, it probably wasn't actually global. It's just like the Western Billboard, Hot Billboard, whatever it is,
Billboard 100,
100, and all that kind of record sales.
So £2 in 1960 was £57 today.
Yeah,
today's money.
Yes, yeah, and that's the thing. People expect it to be a lot more than it is, but it's just because wages are relatively less.
Yeah, and then they're living in their van and pissing over. I mean, we haven't even talked about the fact that you've been on tour with your bands.
Yeah,
like did you relate to when they're all stuffed in a van, drinking beer, pissing in bottles? Like,
yes,
yeah,
very much so.
Yeah,
I mean,
playing stingy pubs. You did that with the swing club, swing one. Sorry, not the swingers club.
Whoa, what was
the swing band?
yeah. Well, the soul and Motown band. Yeah,
soul and Motown. Oh, yeah.
You're
basically doing that.
But that's like the kind of theme from those bands is like some like the like Freddie Mercury's happy to obviously not slum it like that, but he's happy to continue doing that kind of touring thing, whereas the other people are like, no, I'm kind of done with that.
Yeah, and like, you know, done some cool stuff with the bands I was in and that, but I would never at the same, you know, never got to the height of Freddie Mercury or Elton John.
I don't think that exists anymore.
No. But like, you know, did okay, but I think it's like funny when people watch films like this and they realize like how savage the music industry is, and like how it's not all golden buzzers and Simon Cowell saying you through to the next round. It's like, you know, it's a real difficult,
boring numbers and metrics.
And also another reason, you know, like, I mean, I still work in music, but I don't do I'm not in bands anymore because it's fucking soul destroying.
Yeah,
it's not for everybody, and I'm happy with doing what I'm doing now, but it's just, you know, being in a band, it takes a lot of time, and being a musician takes a lot of time. But I could imagine, like, especially with Elton John, like doing all of that on your own would be doubly as difficult. Whereas I had like band members who you could sort of talk to, and we all had similar interests. Whereas with Queen, they all didn't have similar interests, and they never hung out. So that must have been like you being on your own too. So yeah, nowadays it's not a man in a suit who turns up to a gig and offers you a record deal. That's not how it works anymore.
No, you need a minimum of 100,000 followers on Instagram or
Facebook and Twitter and TikTok.
It's kind of that thing of like the role they used to play, the jobs they used to do of marketing and all this stuff. You have to do that first to even get in the door. You basically have to go viral on TikTok or whatever before you are even allowed the opportunity.
I mean, we had meetings with record labels, and they would say the same thing. Like, they'd say, "We love you guys. We love the music. We love the look, the vibe." And then they'd be like, "But you just don't have enough followers on social media. So come back when you do."
Which is insane.
And it's sort of like, it makes you realize that, you know, if you want to do something for fun, you should just do it for fun. Like I said at the start, like, I still work in music, but do more sort of production now. But I know people who have got to that stage, been rejected, and then they've never picked up an instrument or gone back into music industry ever again. Because it's for some people, it's like the only thing that they think that they're good at, and then they just settle for anything else afterwards, which is fucking horrible. It's a shame, man.
Sad.
Yeah. But yeah, no, the bit in the van made me laugh because I've definitely pissed in bottles in the backs of cars and vans and stuff. And
it's the classic scene, isn't it, of people being like just crammed in a van.
And like it's 2 a.m. and you've just finished packing down from a show and stuff. Yeah. It's not as glamorous as it sounds, unfortunately.
It is that interesting thing of like something that's become so famous and so like cliched,
zeitgeisty,
but it came from, every cliche comes from somewhere, like a truth. And it's just interesting to think about, especially the way they show it in Rocketman, just like this was true, and this is what people do, and how they get around, and how they stay in the industry, and how they stay relevant. It's just and you've got to let go of yourself to be a part of it. The Puma tracksuit he has, once he is like taken away his visage, you know, in the rehab center, is bejeweled, and I love it, and it's real. I know for a fact that's real because I believe that's something he still wears. He still wears like Adidas and Puma tracksuits that are just like just bejeweled, and I just thought it was great.
His outfits are great for it.
They're so good.
Yeah, they're brilliant.
Even like the more like pared down ones, we got that little sun hat kind of like one is wearing like
Well,
a
the
suit thing.
the double denim when he does little dancer,
Tiny
so
Dancer.
good. Tiny dancer, sorry, is so good. Looks so good on Taron Egerton because he's a very good looking man. All the outfits do.
I really like the baseball one. That one's my favorite one.
That's so interesting because that's like his Live Aid. That
That's
that was
Rocketman.
for-
That's like the big scene. That's for the trailer scene.
I think
isn't it?
that's
yeah,
well,
that's the post.
that's
That's his iconic,
Yeah.
very
pretty
iconic
sure that
moment.
outfit's for Benny and the Jets because the Jets.
Benny and the
Oh,
Jets.
it's because I've seen the
'Cause aren't the
poster that
Jets
says
a
Rocketman
baseball
on
team?
top of it.
I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
Yes,
New York.
but that's like,
No,
but that performance I know is like
That's American
his
football,
iconic.
Jets.
Is it? Oh. But anyway, the baseball one was my favorite.
Yeah, that's like his iconic performance, like the same way Live Aid is. And it's interesting because in Rocketman, the way the narrative is built around is actually that's not really very important to the story they're telling because that is just after he's tried to kill himself.
Yeah.
Which, from what I read up on, Elton John tried to kill himself at least 3 times. This is the one that's shown in the film, and then he goes and does this iconic with the baseball, and because he does that, he's on the piano and he does that, and he hits the baseball first time, and it just shows, kind of the brutal life he lived, and it was unrelenting, and he never stopped, and he never took a break, and even whilst what you're seeing from the other side is just this, oh my god, look at this performance, it's like the biggest performance he's ever done, and at the time, I think that's kind of what it's not the Madison Square Garden because that's what he runs away from, but it's some really, really big stadium he's in, this famous thing, and just like but behind the scenes he was literally dying.
They show that in the best way though, like you just going back to how you're saying about how they did the transition so well, that the way they showed that was so
From
good,
the
like
ambulance and
from
the
the
lifting
ambulance
up.
lift him up, stripped his clothes off, and then as he's getting ready for the show they're injecting him with stuff and putting things around him and stuff, and then he's walking and then he's out onto the stage, and that's perfect.
Because
It's like the way they've done that is
he
great.
really does he even does like the tragedy comedy mask in one bit where before he puts on the chicken costume, which is a funny one. It's not one of my favorites, but I understand why it's iconic. He does the faces in the mirror, very kind of Joker-esque, and he does that for the baseball. He's like super, just like, and then he has to go on stage and he lifts his face because he's a performer, and he just, he's separated himself from the person that's going on stage. And then I just have healing his inner child who only wanted to be loved. That's kind of like the main accepting yourself, loving yourself. You don't need the love and validation from elsewhere. Yes, that's nice, but the point of both of these men, I would say as well, but it's just done better in Rocketman because he literally hugs himself as a child. And one of the scenes when his dad says don't be soft, it's when him as a child is asking, when are you going to hug me? And it's just one of those things where it's just like, you're not going to get that from him, so he needs to give it himself. And from then, he can break out of rehab and do I'm Still Standing.
But what's the at what point does that happen in Bohemian Rhapsody? Apart from so he hugs his dad.
I think it's meant to be the moment with his dad.
There's no poignancy to that at all.
No. There's no build-up.
And it's also not clear why his dad is hugging him. Is it because he's dying, or is it because he's successful? Is it because he's doing the Live Aid concert? Like, I don't quite know.
There's just no good payoff.
No, yeah, you're right. Yeah, because he just they say that thing, isn't it? Good thoughts, good deeds, good something else.
And Freddie's like finally
Like you talk.
I know
me.
what you mean, and I'm gonna do that now.
And then they hugged. So that was really the only bit of, that was like the recall of that sort of saying that his dad always told him. But that was it.
It was just very hard. I mean, because you kind of thought, oh, I think I maybe know why his dad doesn't like the fact that he's a musician, but he doesn't know that he's gay because he's married.
Well, he's reading the Sun newspaper, so he's reading like the rumors and stuff. But like Freddie Mercury, did he ever come out as gay? technically.
Not
I don't. I think
because
he always kind of pushed
that's what
away
Paul
that question of like
outs him after he dies in the sun, and that's what he gets paid for.
there you go.
So I think it might have been something that was like,
I think it's always something he pushed away, right? Because he was like, "Why are you asking me that?" Like,
because I think
that's a
he's
stupid question.
apolitical. He's very much. He's like, I just do the music.
Doesn't
Why do you
matter.
care about my sexuality?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not singing
exactly.
about my sexuality,
Which is fair enough. Fair enough, to be honest.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
You know, it's not. It's the once again, the press junkets and all that. Like, you are expected to answer questions, but like, it's a press junket for the band and for the music. You are expected to answer questions about the music and the band. Like, yeah, questions like that are super personal and shouldn't be asked. Like, it's that clip of Tom Hardy where he's
asked if he's gay.
He's asked if he's gay, and he's like, "What are you talking about? We're talking about the release of Mad Max or
it's that type of journalism, isn't
Dark
it?
Knight or whatever." And it's just like,
Tattle.
yeah, exactly, because they're trying to get their break, and I understand, but maybe just don't be a dickhead. And the last note I have is, which is something we can talk about a little bit, is that they use no real footage in Bohemian Rhapsody, like none at all, which I really think lets it down, especially if you're going to do such a grounded biopic. Whereas in Rocketman, they do have like when there's newspaper clippings, they have the real
tilt ending.
Yeah, and the last thing in the film is the real music video of "I'm Still Standing" with Taron Egerton superimposed on top. And it's just good.
It's brilliant.
It's just so good because it's it must mean so much to Elton John, that music video, that song. Like, it's all about him, all about his recovery, all about his time and, his entire life and rehab. And it's such a perfect end point for the film. But because that's the thing, you don't get to see anything past that, because past that is him
different
being
story.
a nice man. Yeah, it's a completely different story. And
Boring.
yeah, you could, honestly, yeah, you could argue, and that's also what Elton John would have came to that decision as well. Like, there's no point telling my life after this.
People who are nice, people think they're boring because it's more interesting to see people who are being horrible.
Yeah,
because you get more reactions out of it.
And I think that music video is a lot of fun. I think it's a very funny one. And it does a lot of the iconic stuff, the little Kate, because he does little Charlie Chaplin movements in it, which are quite iconic. And it's another iconic look as well. Not something I would want to wear, but it's an iconic look.
No, he's got
his.
like he's got
the cane, and he's wearing like the seaside affair stuff.
Straw boater.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And he's got the jacket.
I nearly said boa, but that's a feathery scarf, isn't it?
Or a snake.
Yeah. He's not got one of them.
Yeah.
But when any interviews with Elton John, he clearly loves the film, but not in a kind of like, kind of arrogant way. I think he just thinks it looked like it was a lot of fun to make. He really enjoyed it. He thinks it was good, and it's not. And although it's obviously
He's never
all
seen
about
it,
Elton John,
though.
I think he said he.
In all the interviews I
Did
watched,
he?
he said he's never seen it.
Oh, I thought in one night
Wow.
he'd said he'd seen it.
Really?
I mean, I might be wrong, but I didn't watch
I
every
couldn't-
single interview that he's ever done. But the ones I watched, he said,
Yeah.
like there was one with him and Taron Egerton, and he said the film's amazing. I mean, I haven't seen the film, and I probably won't see the film. But
Yeah, fair. I mean, fair enough, because I know
I don't know if that's true now.
Yeah,
No, I don't know.
I know one of his quotes was telling Taron to not try to do him too much, like try and find your own. Like, obviously, you got to reference Elton John. He's right there as well. Like,
Be interesting
you might
if
as
he-
well reference him.
It'd be interesting if he's never watched it, if he's on so many of the interviews and stuff, and he seems to be glowing with praise about it. So, but that I wouldn't put it past Elton John to do that. To be fair,
I think it's more about, like we said at the beginning, like
Weird to watch
he
yourself.
trusts the people that's made it, and
also some people don't like to watch themselves.
No, which is fair. And to be honest, that's a part of his life he's leaving behind, that he's left behind for 28
And he may have
years
just seen
successfully.
scenes. He may have seen scenes and just not the whole film altogether.
And I'm sure he worked with Taron, but once again, like, he clearly had faith in Taron to do it from the previous films, and he's already given his license for him to sing "I'm Still Standing" in that animated film and stuff. So he must have just been happy with it. So okay, so I have this section that we can do from ChatGPT. Basically, I just got it to make a list of like fact or fiction differences between real life. Stop trying to read my phone, Jules.
That was a really interesting idea.
I'm covering it. Oh, thank you. Yeah. I do come up with interesting ideas, including this podcast. Ooh. The concept.
Visionary.
Yeah.
Just like Freddie Mercury. We're only 3 episodes.
Ask the bloody question.
Well, yeah. Statement 1. In Bohemian Rhapsody, Freddie Mercury is shown joining the band Queen after a chance meeting at a bar following a performance by the band's previous lead singer. Fact or fiction?
Fact.
That is fact, but is it a chance meeting or is he going there all the time? But I'll just go with fact, yeah.
Fact. And I'm totally on board with you because that's real, what you said. Freddie Mercury did indeed join Queen after their original singer left, Tim Staffel. He was already friends with the band members and seized the opportunity to join them.
It is one
So
of them, yeah.
he might have been at that gig and saw what happened, but he already
it's
was
not
friends
made
with them.
clear,
So I don't
but-
think it's.
No,
yeah,
yeah.
I don't think it's.
It's a bit of a reach, that one.
Bit of a reach.
Chance meeting at a bar. Plus, it wasn't in a bar. It was out.
Doesn't he go to that bar all the time? Because that's why his parents were annoyed about it. You keep going to this bar and listening to
Yeah, but it was outside in the parking lot in the film. So,
Yeah, but as in he keeps going to the bar. So.
yeah. Statement 2. In Rocketman, Elton John is portrayed as having been married to a woman named Renate Blau. Is that what it is? Renata Blau?
Renee?
Renee. Yeah.
If it's not Renee at the end of it, it'll be Renee.
That is definitely what this says. It definitely says Renee. Fact or fiction?
Fact.
He gets married to a woman,
Yep. She is a woman.
but what was the
Called
question?
Renata.
Was the question makes it seem like
Renate.
Renate.
Renata. But it says that's where it doesn't depict. I think
I'm going fact.
fiction.
Fact. Elton John did marry.
You're keeping score here.
Renee.
How many
I'm
you-
winning.
No, you're not. How many have you got?
You're clearly not winning.
I think you've got 1 and I've got 2.
Fuck you, where did that come from?
Because I've got 2 right and you've got 1 wrong.
I don't know.
Well, we'll go from that because that does sound accurate.
Unbelievable.
Elton John did marry Renee in 1984. The marriage lasted 4 years before they divorced.
Bloody hell.
That is, whew, what a beard.
Are you saying long or short? Is that
Long
yeah? Okay.
for a sham marriage.
Oh yes, yeah.
Pretty long. Statement.
Sham. It's a sham and a charlatan.
Besmirching the name of marriage.
Statement 3. Bohemian Rhapsody shows the band members of Queen breaking up due to Freddie Mercury's solo career pursuits. Fact or fiction?
Fact.
Do you two want another swing at that? Bohemian Rhapsody shows the band members of Queen breaking up due to Freddie Mercury's solo career pursuits. Fact or fiction?
I thought that was fact. I thought that's what the Bohemian Rhapsody shows.
Yeah, real life.
Oh, real life.
Real life.
Yeah, fiction.
What's the point of this?
Fiction.
Oh, shit, yeah,
fiction,
sorry.
Fiction.
Yeah, fiction.
Yeah, it's fact that it shows that in the. I was getting confused.
It's
by the
fact that it
premise of the
shows
show.
it, but it is a fiction.
Yes, it is a fiction. That is true. Which is quite a big fiction.
Yeah, I think so.
It's quite harsh. Because
Well-
especially if I don't want to tarnish his legacy, but it makes him come across as a dick.
As a dick, yeah.
So like what?
Fiction. While the film dramatizes tensions within the band, Queen never officially broke up. They take a brief hiatus, but they continue to perform and record together throughout the 1980s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Statement 4. Rocketman portrays Elton John's first US performance at the Troubadour as a career-changing event.
Fact.
Oh no. I don't think. I think that might be fiction.
I'm going
Okay.
fact.
I think it might be fiction because I think he doesn't play at that club. I think he plays somewhere else.
Okay. George's going fiction,
I'll
Ed's
go
going fact. It is fact. I talked about it specifically in the podcast we are recording right now. Elton John's performance at the Troubadour in Los Angeles in 1970 was indeed a turning point in his career, significantly boosting his popularity and solidifying his path to stardom.
Oh, clearly, I'm not an Elton John fan. So.
Maybe someone fell asleep
Oh my god!
I was just
whilst making this
it's
podcast.
going to show that I'm just better at quizzes than Jules.
Statement 5. In Bohemian Rhapsody, Freddie Mercury reveals his HIV diagnosis to his bandmates before their iconic Live Aid performance. Fact.
Fiction.
Fiction. Very good. Freddie Mercury was not diagnosed with HIV until 1987, 2 years after the Live Aid concert in 1985.
Fact.
The film takes creative liberties to enhance the emotional impact of the story.
Oh, is this the...
He's describing the
Oh,
fact.
right. I thought that was a question.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were making a joke.
Fact.
It would just be the same thing. It's the same thing.
He's so good at quizzes.
I give myself another point as well.
Take it back.
You're going to win a string of sausages. That's the prize. Woo! Woo! Statement 6. Rocketman includes a scene where Elton John is given his stage name by combining the first names of Elton Dean and John Lennon.
I believe that's fiction.
I'm going to go fact.
It's fiction.
Oof.
And this is what I nearly said earlier, so I'm glad I didn't say it. Fiction. Elton John chose his stage name by combining the first name of his bluesology bandmate, Elton Dean, and singer Long John Baldry.
Long John Baldry.
Long John.
What a name.
Long John Baldry.
You must say it like that.
Yes. Do you know who that is? I don't know. Who
No, I don't know who that is.
Statement 7.
Pirate?
He certainly was a buccaneer. He was swashbuckling.
Statement 7. Bohemian Rhapsody accurately portrays the recording process of the song Bohemian Rhapsody as a complex and innovative endeavour involving overdubs and various musical styles. Fact or fiction?
If that's not a fact, then that's just
Fact.
bollocks,
It's a fact.
isn't it? So it's got to be fact.
The answer is a fact. The recording of Bohemian Rhapsody was indeed a groundbreaking and complex process involving numerous overdubs and blending
Did you give yourself
various
an
musical genres,
No.
showcasing Queen's innovative approach to music.
Just stretch your little finger.
Statement 8. Rocketman depicts Elton John attending a rehabilitation centre dressed in a flamboyant costume. Fact or fiction?
Oh, right. I see.
Okay.
Did he rock up?
It's probably fiction, to be fair.
Yeah, did he rock up in the Fallen Angel?
I think he got
Ghetto?
I think he got carted there by someone in a car.
I think that's got to be fiction.
Fiction, yeah.
Fact.
Oh, so he doesn't necessarily in real life, but
He does it in real life.
This quiz is just
I know, it's
flip-flopping
flipping
around.
flopping.
No
So
wonder
we
I'm
both-
getting confused.
Did I get it right?
Well,
No,
we
we both
don't-
got it wrong.
None of
I
us
think
got,
both
none of us got it wrong.
Both
All
got it
right.
wrong. No, you said. Well, no, because
No, you said
no, because the answer is fact technically. So
Yeah.
none of you got it. But it's a trick question, and it's the last one as well. So it would have been a good trick question.
Trickery!
Elton John entered rehab in 1990 to address his addictions, and his decision to seek help marked a pivotal moment in his life. The film dramatizes his flamboyant personality by showing him in a costume, symbolizing his struggle and transformation. So, yeah, it was fake in real life.
Yes.
So, who won it?
Me. I got 6 and Jules got 5.
I wasn't counting. Jules wasn't counting. So, listeners, go back. Let us know in the comments who won. And there we have it. Someone won. Who knows who it was? And that's it for this week. I really liked watching these films. I liked talking about them. I think you probably can tell that I'm a huge fan of Rocketman. But I did enjoy Bohemian as well. I think, yeah, like we said, the Live Aid's the best bit. Should have stuck stronger to some more family elements and some heart that Rocketman really does well, I feel. The whole transition of the character, probably better in Rocketman.
Yeah, I mean,
Thingy.
I don't like Bohemian Rhapsody. I found
Yeah.
it boring, but I did very much enjoy Rocketman for sure. But yeah,
I think instead of watching Bohemian Rhapsody, just go watch the Live Aid performance. Because it's just as good. Like, I have seen it as well. Like, it's just as good, just as emotional. You can sense they're wanting to do it. So yeah, I think we're all in agreement of this or that, aren't we? That is Rocketman.
are you?
Yeah.
Good.
I think for me it's weird because I'm a fan of Queen, and I'm more of a fan of Queen than I am Elton John, but I prefer Rocketman to Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yep.
It's a better film.
enough.
Better film.
Yeah.
And you do have to, separate yourself from that. And obviously people on the internet can't do it. That's it for this week. Let us know what you thought of these films underneath. And if you're planning on not watching a musical, give it a go. Give it a go. You might be pleasantly surprised, just like Rocketman.
Yeah.
Or go see Jamie Bell and Billy Elliot, which I've never seen because I have no interest. But I've been Callum.
I've been Jules.
And I've been Ed.
And thank you for listening to us. We'll see you next time.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.